CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Hello, Oracle Groundbreakers APAC Virtual Tour 2021. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you guys. Wish I were there in person. My name is Cannell. I own TH Technology, and I do a ton of Apex work and lately Visual Builder and all kinds of Oracle stuff. This session is Apex Modals, Popups and Dialogs, which use when, how, and why. Or as of Apex 21.2, we also have a new kind of modal page and dialog called drawers. So we can also call this modals, pop-ups, and drawers. Now what? Which use when and how and why. So welcome. Great to have you here. Please support our sponsors for the APEC Tour, Francesco. Amazing stuff that he does, CloudDB, amazing company. All of your user groups, if you're not involved in one or more of these user groups, get active. This is the fastest, easiest, most efficient, most fun way to learn. And Oracle Groundbreakers, Oracle ACE program, whatever it morphs into, get involved. There's a great group of people out there, and we have a lot of fun. Even virtually. As I said, I'm TH Technology. I do Oracle Consulting Services. Have been doing this for over 20 years now as TH Tech, and before that for various other firms. I am an Oracle ACE director. OD Tug is my, I guess that's my home user group. And, I got involved and I haven't looked back. This is me in my happy place. I'll be there tomorrow about noontime. That little dot is me swimming. This is how I stay sane, and particularly through COVID, and hopefully Omicron just fades away and that all the vaccines work. Stay safe, everyone, whatever it takes. I want to see everyone at CaseGo 22. It's in Texas this year, just outside of Dallas. I am a conference chair. We're going to have some hackathons. We'll have some neat stuff there. Omicron willing. So enough about me. About you guys, Apex experience. This is where I really miss the interactive. What Apex versions are you on? I'm going to assume that you're, Apex 5 and above. You've kind of looked at 21.2, haven't really adopted it in production yet. You're curious about modals, dialogues, pop-ups, and what the heck are you talking about drawers, Karen? Same as me. So why attend? So we can learn about these things, what they are, the distinctions, when to use one versus the other, how to use in the latest Apex versions, and there are changes and some recommendations. And that, of course, is our agenda. So, reminder, Oracle is a low-code development platform. What's that mean? We can be more agile. We can develop things faster if you actually use the low-code stuff. So do it declaratively first. And a lot of what I'm going to show you is in the sandbox. Actually, all of what I'm going to show you, well, except for one thing, is in the sandbox stuff. And that means you're going to be able to upgrade smoothly. That one other thing, if we have time, I did a thing in Apex right up to Apex 21.1. It worked as of Apex 21.2. It doesn't, because why I did some outside of the box stuff. Apex gives us a great sandbox and great tools, and they keep adding more tools so we can build the Taj Mahal declaratively. You don't have to use these tools. You can do whatever you want within the Apex frameworks, bring in other JavaScript stuff, bring in more different jQuery things. You can build things from scratch, but when you upgrade, you are out in the desert. You're on your own. And like I said, I have an example of that. So use the low-code stuff when you can. At this point, I want to mention a couple 21.2 new features that impact our discussion of modals, dialogues, and pop-ups. because now we have drawers. And when they did that, they, as part of their renaming the various regions or areas on the page, what used to be called inline dialogues is now called dialogues, drawers, and pop-ups. Why? Because it's just more intuitive. It's a region on the page where we put our inline dialogues, our inline pop-ups, and our inline drawers. We have modal dialog drawers now. We have dialog drawers and we have modal page drawers. Neat things. It's just a different way to do a, I don't even want to say dialogue because that implies the rectangular, but you'll see shortly. We also have a new modal dialog event called dialog closed or canceled. And why do we care? Because this event fires, is triggered on an escape key or clicking on the window close X button in the top right, as well as on the regular dialog close and cancel buttons or events. So, so you can pretty much capture the user any way they choose to escape the dialog. If you need to, you may not need to in all cases, and we'll talk about that more. You also have updated alert and confirm dialogs. And again, why do we care? Because these updated dialogs allow you to customize the look and feel. Aside from getting the icon and the colors, you can change, you have more control over the message and the message on the buttons. So in certain cases, on these alert and confirm dialogs, because it's declarative, you can eliminate your need for an inline dialog or an inline pop-up, which is really cool. So you can customize the style, the icon, and in the CSS classes area, you can also use template directives. You can customize the confirm and cancel labels. You can also activate these on a button declaratively by using this requires confirmation setting. When that is on, you can add your own confirmation message. And I use the delete example just because it's easy. You're not going to want to do this on every button, but it's awful handy. So again, I tell you this because it might be a way that you can avoid having to build your own inline dialogues and regions or modal pages. Okay, modals, dialogues, pop-ups, drawers. What the heck are they? Well, I'll show you pictures and then we'll jump into an app. Modal dialog page looks like a page on a page. Yep, it is. Inline dialog looks like a less fancy page on a page. This is actually a region that pops up on the current page. More about this in a moment. And an inline pop-up region is even a lighter weight. And I mean lighter weight in terms of the structure of the page. It doesn't matter what size it is, but you notice this one does not have a header region where the inline dialog does, and then the inline page has a header and a footer and all kinds of stuff that go with it. So inline pop-up, lightest weight of them all. Modal drawer page, header, footer. Notice that it overlays the entire page, top to bottom. It comes out of the start end of the parent page or the end, meaning the right side, so the left or the right. This is how it's implemented within Apex. Always modal within Apex at this point. It can also be an inline drawer region. So this is, again, a lighter weight version of the drawer, the modal drawer page. Definitions. What are you talking about, Karen? What is going on? Modal versus non-modal. Modal means that user's focus is held until that dialog is closed, that dialog or drawer. For example, the edit details page of a master detail form is often a modal page. You edit that that individual record until you're done. You click submit, it saves, and you're back to the master page. Non-modal, a user can interact with the parent page and the pop-up page help text. The Apex debug window, the session window, is your most familiar example of a non-modal page. Dialog. A dialog is simply a window above the parent page. It can be modal or non-modal. It has a title bar, content, a close icon, can be resizable, draggable, stackable, depending on the settings on that particular dialog. And most of the time, we're talking about a modal dialog page or an inline dialog region. Interesting stuff. Apex page versus an Apex dialog. Page means it's a separate Apex page with the full Apex URL, whether you see it or, whether you see it or not. Modal dialog page is a page above the parent page. The inline dialog is a region. It's actually a part of the Apex page, gets rendered, all the stuff gets downloaded at rendering time. It's just not visible until you say, okay, open that region. So the inline dialog region is a region above the parent page, if you will. And we most often talk about modal dialog page versus an inline dialog region. Now, pop-up isn't that same thing as an inline dialog region? Well, no, not in Apex speak. It's a different template with a different use in that it's lighter and simpler. It doesn't have a header, meaning no title bar. It's always modal. You can't resize it. You can't drag it. And we're usually talking about inline, distinguishing between inline pop-ups versus inline dialogues. Now enter drawers. A drawer can be a modal page with a drawer template or an inline dialog with an inline dialog region with an inline drawer template. They're always modal as implemented in Apex at this point. Though it looks like the underpinnings are there to make them non-modal in the future. We're mostly going to talk about modal dialog pages or drawers, inline dialog regions or inline drawers, and inline pop-up regions. And this will make sense to you in a whole bit. Well, let's jump in right now. This is a sample app. This is on apexoracle.com. I also have a version of it running on my always free Apex version. I haven't put it in Apex service yet, but it's it'll all work. I do need to update this release. This is now, because it's apexoracle.com, Apex 21.2, which means I can show you drawers. So simple stuff. Let's jump in. Modal dialog page, and these buttons just open. I'll show you in a moment. To open a modal dialog page, this is a separate page. Now notice at the top here. Let's just do it this way. Make things a little bigger. My URL says I'm on page 8. My focus is page 6. Page 6 is my dialog page. Just to look at that dialog page for a moment, since we're right there. Simple modal dialog page, name, title. Page mode is modal dialog. Page template, dialog template, is modal dialog. Now notice that I could have picked drawer. For now, I'm just saying modal dialog, but that's the difference between a drawer as a page and a drawer as a dialog, and you'll see more about that in a moment. I just kept the defaults for everything else, and I have some stuff on this page. So that's this particular page. I have an editable grid on the bottom. You could have a form, whatever. Because it's a separate page, any submit processing, any validations, all that stuff is contained on this page. That simplifies stuff if you have a lot of validations and processing and things you need to do on that page, stuff. So that's why you would use a dialogue, a modal page as opposed to just a dialogue, because it is a separate transaction space. This one's pretty simple, and you can do a lot of work on a modal dialogue page, the same work as you can do on any other Apex page. Before Apex 21.2, I could drag this around. It's not letting me do that out of the box. I'm sure there's an override. It's also not letting me resize, which is something I could do out of the box in earlier versions. Maybe something I need to learn, or maybe there's a restriction and there's a reason for this. It is a modal as defined by the page. That means I can't do anything in my parent page until I close this one. And so to open this page, really simple, redirect a page in this application, or because I'm going to a separate Apex page, I need to use either Apex util prepare URL or Apex page get URL, because I need that checksum on the end of that URL. When I go from page to page, I need the checksum to be secure nowadays. We'll see that more. To close, very simple. I can focused on here. I can close or I can cancel. A close will trigger a dialog close. A cancel does not up until Apex 21.2. Another way I can do things, and I'm going to do it right now, is click escape, and it just disappears. Now, that might not be what you want if someone was in the middle of a form. I can also hit this window close default button, and that will close things. Now, in both the case of the escape or this window X, up into 21.2, there's no way to capture that. As of 21.2, there is a dialog closed or canceled event, and this event will capture that this close, click on this close button, or an escape, or a close or a cancel dialog page. It'll capture those events as well. So plan accordingly. If your user is going to cancel or close out, you may want to capture some stuff or act accordingly. More about that. So close and cancel. My close button will close, my cancel button will cancel. I just want to show you how I opened this. This is just that modal dialog page. And very simply, I just redirect to a page in this application. If I need to pass values, I pass them in here. Very, very simple. Back to this page. On my close, on page 6, I'm using where's my close button? Down the bottom. I'm closing with a dynamic action that is simply as you can imagine, close dialog. And if I have to pass things back, then I can capture things on the with a dialog closed event on the parent page. Just in the case of time, I'm not covering that right now, just because we have a lot to go over. And then the simple cancel dialog, same thing. It's a simple cancel dialog, and that cancels. And again, as of, 2 different events here. One, this isn't really firing anything. This is firing that dialog closed event. With Apex 21.2, things are less, there's less of that distinction, because one dialog closed or canceled event can capture both of those, and the escape and the X. So enough of that modal dialog page. Non-modal dialog page. This is just a simple page I can drag this all around. I can drag it right off the screen almost. It's not captured. It's not bound to the parent window, and it can sit there forever. I can I cannot escape out of this one because it's non-modal. And I can close it simply with the browser close, or I can use the buttons, and it works I opened the exact same way with just a simple redirect to URL, or redirect to page in this application, and I could pass things the same way. Inline dialog region, this is where it gets interesting. Now I'm opening a region that's actually on my page. And the position used to be named Inline Dialogs. Now it is called Dialogs, Regions, and Pop-ups. And let's look at that. Dialogs, Drawers, and Pop-ups. So there's all the stuff on my page. There's my buttons, and there's my next talk. But I have this region on the page, Dialogs, Drawers, and Pop-ups. This used to be called Inline Dialogs, and obviously they've changed the name to make it more intuitive. This is my sample inline dialog region. It's part of the page. I defined this region as the position is inline drawers and pop-ups, and that makes a distinction right there. So position, and then we need this template as inline dialog. Now, as you might be able to imagine, there's also inline drawer and inline pop-up that apply here. And these are just different templates for these regions that can be displayed in line. And again, all three of these types of regions are downloaded when the page is downloaded. They're not displayed until you actually execute an open region. There's some settings. I'm not going to go through all of them. Auto height, remove padding. Notice these by default, draggable and resizable are off. If I are on, if I want to adjust things, I can adjust those there. So lots of flexibility here. Inline drawer region, as you can imagine, same thing. The region, dialogs, drawers, and pop-ups. Only in this case, I use the inline drawer. Slightly different template settings. Position, start, and end is going to roll out from the left, the start, or the right, the end, and some heading level and spacing settings. Back to my page. While I'm here, I have a couple buttons here because this isn't really intuitive. This particular one is resizable. Did I make it draggable? Yes, it is. And I showed you those settings that make the difference there. And again, it's modal. Opening. I did a simple open region dynamic action. And let me show you that. Let me cancel close because that's a little bit different. Am I on 8? So I'm going to go up to my button. And it's a simple, because it's a region on the page, it's a simple open region. And that's my regions that are on the page. But it knows that this inline dialog region is, so it's showing me only those inline regions that are available. So there you go. And inline pop-up gets opened that same way, dynamic action, open region. And as you can imagine, the drawer would be open the exact same way. So back to here, let's talk about closing this inline dialog region. It makes sense that we would use one of those close dialog things, right? But no, it's not working. It's not working. And just to prove to you that what I'm doing here that is not working, because I think it's important that you understand why. This is my close inline dialog button, where you would think you would use a close inline, a close dialog. This has no effect on a inline region. It's for dialog pages. So don't be caught by this one. Same thing with the cancel. This cancel dialog is for pages. You know, so these do not apply. And just to prove to you, since I just moved that, where's my undo button? These do not work, so don't go there. What you need to do to cancel or close the inline region is a simple close region, right? Because that's all we're doing is closing a region. It's just a simple region on a page, and that's the one we have open there. So don't get caught by this one. It's not a dialog anymore. It's a region on a page. Gotcha. So inline pop-up. Now this one is a lot more lightweight. Opens the same way as an inline dialog, but I can't drag it. I can't resize it. I can't escape. I can escape it away. And then a lot of times you can just click. Actually, it's all the time. You can just click outside the window and it'll go away. So there are uses for this when I don't need the user to interact. I just want to pop up some information. This is really handy. It's even lighter weight because there is no header. It's structurally lighter. Closing, you don't have to do anything as a developer. Someone just clicks outside the window. You can put a close button there if you want, but not necessary. And note again that cancel dialog and close dialog don't work here. Why? Because it's not a page, it's a region. So if you wanted to do something here, you would have to say close region. So when and why do you use an inline pop-up? Lightweight messages, repeat use of the same message over and over again, small amounts of data and lightweight stuff. And here is, I actually gave it a little close button. So there you go. Now let's talk about drawers. There's a modal dialog drawer page. Now watch, that was a page and you could see that thing render. It's actually opening, and it helps that I'm in the islands and my internet isn't super swifto, but I've got a whole drawer here, very much like the dialog page, same speed, only it overlays my whole parent page. I said start on this one, so it's coming in from the left. I do get a scroll bar. It does take up the full page. I could have several interactive grids on this page. I could stuff whatever I put on a regular page here, but just because you can, please make sure that what you put on a drawer page makes sense in the context of your application. What's going on in the parent window that I need to slide out this bit of information for someone to complete the little sidebar and then close it down and go away. So editing details are often done this way. Editing part B might be done this way. If there's an optional section that I need to go and fill out, nice to do it this way. So opening, just the same way as a regular, as going to any other page. I can redirect to page in this application, redirect to URL if you have to build the URL. I have to use the Apex util prepare URL or the Apex page get URL because I need the checksum. And my button here simply does the same thing. as my open modal dialog page button. I can close the same way with the X button. I can close with the escape, and I can close with my close and cancel dialog buttons. Now these are the places where I would use close and cancel dialog. Why? Because it's a dialog page. And again, as of Apex 21.2, you can use that dialog closed or canceled event to capture either a close or cancel, or the escape or the window X. So just a more inclusive way to capture that the window has been closed. And then, as you can imagine, we have inline drawer regions. This is the same as our inline dialog region. It's actually on the page. It's in that dialog drawers and pop-ups region, or section of the page. I don't know if they call them page regions for regions. I'll have to get my nomenclature right. The template is inline drawer, and the template is what distinguishes this from an inline dialog. I do have a title bar just the same. In this case, my inline drawer is anchored either to the start or the left, and I can't move my drawer around or adjust its size. It's just there. If I need to see stuff behind the parent window, then I need to close that to see what's there. So keep that in mind as you're designing things. I can't move things around. I talked about opening, just the same as that open region, or in, well, you won't need to do this with older, but it's apex theme.open region static ID, and that might be one that's changing in the new JavaScript APIs. And closing is that same thing, where here we can escape, use the window close button or your own close button, which I had down here. Again, remember that cancel dialog, close dialog don't work here because we're not a dialog page. This is actually a close region. And just to show you, I'm not kidding. There's my close region button and my I just named it close region, and it is indeed the close region dynamic action. So you ready to explode yet? Something you might want to do with the modal dialog page, particularly in versions below 21.2, is get rid of that X button and turn off escape. So I promise I'm clicking on escape and nothing is happening and there's no X button. Why would I do this? Well, because maybe I need the user to only click submit or cancel so I can do specific processing. Then I don't want them to do this X or to simply escape. Now, doing this is not particularly user friendly. It's definitely not. Oh, I can't think of the name. Accessibility. It doesn't follow accessibility rules. But I'll just, for kicks, I'll show you how I did it. This is a different page, and it is a modal dialog page. In the attributes, I have this attribute called close on escape false. Now, how on earth did I figure that out? Well, on every Apex, sorry about this page thing, every Apex element, we have this help region that a lot of you probably keep hidden all the time. But when I click on attributes here, it talks about attributes, and lo and behold, it says things like resizable true, draggable true are possible to put in these attributes thing. So it says, look at the jQuery UI widget documentation, which, hey, I went there and read about a lot of stuff. And one of the things I read about there was that I could use this close on escape false to turn off that escape. Now, again, this is not good for accessibility, but hey, that works. The other thing I added here was this no close class, and that by itself doesn't do anything. But if I look at my parent page, on the parent page in the CSS, I have described what I want to happen. You know, what that no close class is. A simple display none. So that X button's there, it's just not displayed. So that is how I do this no close and no escape. Could be handy. Again, consider the accessibility issues for it. I did want to show you opening a modal dialog page. A case where I have set up where if I'm going to use that dialog closed or canceled event, and all I do is just fire an alert. Probably not what you would do because the dialog is already closed. There's nothing you do about it now. But I just demonstrated to you that yes, indeed, I can use these custom dialogues, and this is not where you would use them. This is just a declarative confirm alert, confirm dialog that I declaratively set buttons and set the message. So neither one of these is going to do anything. But again, in here, if I click escape, I get that same series of stuff. And same thing if I click on the close button. That new event is capturing all of those. So on that, I don't want to take the time to find it right now. But as part of this button, I do that. And on the drawer, same thing applies. I was curious if that dialog closed or canceled event works on a drawer, and yes, indeed it does. And that's pretty cool. And again, I want you to note that this doesn't prevent the close or escape. It just says that it happens. So if you have stuff you have to do when a user closes out of a dialog, you can do that. So, and these are done declaratively. When this dialog closed or canceled, it's on that event on the button. Actually, I closed that one. So because it's on the button, so when the dialog that button open closes, there's my declarative alert where I could say, you know, warning, blah, 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 and then my confirm. I did information. If I change it to something else, I would get the default icon, and I can use the CSS classes. And so very simple to use this new event in 21.2 to capture those different modes, different ways of closing, or lock them down, depends on your use case. So that's all fine and good, the basics. Okay, we don't work you know, that declaratively, so come on. From a classic report, if I want to open a modal dialog page for Department 30, simple enough. And this is the same modal dialog page stuff. I'm not going to go over all of that. Declaratively, no reason, same thing with a drawer. I'm passing in Department 30 in that case that I clicked on. And this is a demo app, so I didn't, you know, make everything pretty, but you get the idea here. What's interesting here, in the sake of time, is this modal page via JavaScript, because we're not always able to do things declaratively. Now, again, I passed in the department number, But how did I do that behind the scenes? So let's take a look here because, and this is a classic report, not a grid. So let's look at my columns. This guy, declarative link. It's just a link to another page. So those make sense, right? We don't have to go over what's in a link and whatever I would have to pass in. Very simple. Same thing for the drawer. But this guy, we had to get a little tricky. This is where I'm going to a modal dialog page. And what I did here was define this link and give it a class. And then I said, I defined this department number data to go with that link. And that's the magic right there, the class and the depno. Because now I can, in my dynamic action, say, on click of jQuery selector, this a MVP depno column, which that was exactly the class that I gave in my href down here, wherever it went. Please tell me that I did not take that format mask off, which I might have. Oh, it was in column formatting. Sorry about that. The HTML expression. This is my class here, and this matches the on-click jQuery selector here. And so what happens now is a lot of work. So this is just telling me, hey, it fired. I can get rid of that now. So I'm getting that data depno, and I'm setting the value of a page item, a hidden page item. Then I'm doing, well, 10 guesses. I needed to set, I need to call a prepare URL or an Apex page get URL. So I can build the URL with the checksum. I'm passing in the triggering element. I'm passing in the value of the department number that I just pulled out when I set value that was passed in my link. And so now that I've got that open dialog URL, my next step is I need to just strip out, I need to escape some stuff, and that's done with a bit of JavaScript again, which I found in sample code, and all this is doing is Unicode escapes. That's all it's doing here. So it looks complicated, but that's what gets us to, from a classic report to open a modal page, redirect to another page, and a lot of work, a lot of work. If it's an inline dialog, not as much to do here. It's an inline dialog region that's on this page. All I have to do is a call to apex theme.open region. And so how do we do that? Same kind of trick in that I'm going to use the HTML expression to set up a class, inline department number column, and then in my dynamic action, open inline dialog, the same jQuery selector, only this time my this is just my alert. I set value the same way as I did before because I need that department number. Server code is just, could have gotten rid of this. I really just need to, no, I can't. I need this because I need to set this department number item. I need to set that value. So there are other ways of doing that as well. And then this is just an Apex theme open region employees. I could have done just a simple open region dynamic action. I just wanted to show you this other way of doing it. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to refresh that region. So it seemed like a lot of work, but it pops up really quick. And I use that same technique for the inline drawer. For some reason, my drawer is not taking my changes to template defaults. In this case, what I would want to do, and I've already done, is my inline drawer. I would down to my inline things. What I would do here is go into my dialog templates, and you can see I've already changed it to start large, and it's just not taking my changes at this point, and I don't know why. It could be something with my internet or something cached somewhere very strange. And exactly the same. So and again, I can escape out of this, close out of this. Same as for any other inline region or inline drawer. Inline pop-up, just a tiny little pop-up, and I can just click outside and close. A lot of work from a classic report, but from a grid, much easier. I can use a declarative link because in a grid, every page, every item, every column is an apex item. So these columns just become links. It becomes very easy. It's just simply, it's a number field, yes, but it just becomes a simple link. And whatever I can put in a link or a target, I can do. Same thing for the drawer. For the inline dialogs, I can put a dynamic action right on the column that does a simple open region for my inline dialog region. So going back to my, this is my modal page. I think this is my drawer. Just taking time to render there. These are just inline pop-ups. And you can see it's just a simple region. So much easier from a grid. Grids, this one is editable, but if you need to do this kind of processing, consider using a grid as opposed to a classic report or an interactive report, because it's easier to do this stuff from a grid. So enough from now. Let's go back to our slides. So what I showed you, see if I can recap this in just a few minutes. We talked about a modal dialog page, and that it has the region positions and some of the template options. And why would you do modal page or drawer? To focus attention, warnings, alert, confirmations, forms where you need to submit before you continue with something else, or for multi-step processes like wizards. Interesting. Inline dialog, a key thing for all these inline things are there are regions on the current page, so they render faster, they display faster, and the template is what distinguishes them. And again, this inline dialogs is the pre-21.2, 21.2 and higher. It's dialogs, drawers, and pop-ups, just a name change. Why inline dialog? Because it's faster than a modal dialog page, because it's already downloaded. You can leverage page items already on the page that aren't in that region, static or display only stuff, or maybe you just need to supplement some of the information on the page. I use them a lot when I have a selected list and someone clicks other. Well, I can go out and collect that other, save it with the rest of the page information, and nothing gets submitted until the entire page gets submitted. I can also reuse that dialog a lot. Inline pop-up is a region on the current page. It's hidden and displayed when you actually say open region. There's your position. And again, the template makes the distinction. Excuse me. Does not have a header, a title, or close, and just click outside. Fastest, lightest weight, simple messages. Templates make the difference. I've discussed all of these, how the templates make the distinction, and particularly with drawers, a page with a drawer, modal page with a drawer template, and an inline drawer region with an inline drawer template is what makes the difference there. Just some subtle things. So you think don't think I'm pulling your leg here. Here's your inline dialog template. Here's your inline pop-up template. Very, very similar. And the difference is so subtle. It's in this one class that defines a big difference. And there's probably a very similar thing with the drawer template as well. So templates are important. Template options make a huge difference. I want you to go there yourself and just look at all the different options that are out there. No need for me to go through these. apex.oracle.com/ut and go down to the modal dialogues and pop-ups. We talked quickly about creating, closing. Page mode is modal, template modal dialog, and then you add your stuff like a regular page. With drawer, your template is drawer, and you add your stuff like a regular page. Inline dialog region, it's that inline dialog place on the page, that dialogs, drawers, and pop-ups place on the page, and then that inline dialog template with drawers. Again, it's that inline drawer template. Pop-up, inline pop-up template. I pointed out how calling from an interactive grid is much the same. And when you do pop-ups from a grid, have a definite use case for it. Messages, alerts. I had to build, I had a business case to do it. I thought it was ugly, where if you ask one question, depending on the answer, we needed a pop-up to ask another question. But those cases where the answer was other and I needed them to add what was the other, that one makes sense. So be smart about how you use these. This is a thing that broke. I had a modal wizard and I needed to do inline dialogues from the modal wizard pages. So what I did was I built an inline dialog. I built a modal wizard template that would allow me to do inline dialogues. This no longer works in Apex 21.2. They've tightened down how these dialogues work. So this is a standard template, and I took this inline dialog region and I just copied it into the modal wizard template. Worked in earlier versions, doesn't in 21.2. So I have some homework. There's lots of more stuff for you guys to do. I showed you hide the X. I showed you all the details there. For reference, it's in your slides. Read the help. There's some helpful options there. And I showed you the 21.2 dialog closed event. So I showed you opening with Apex View prepare URL or Apex page get URL. And just a few, and these are in your slides as well. These are cases where I've had to do pop-ups from a modal pop-up. This is something that's going to break in 21.2 when we upgrade. But what the heck? And then an alternate way to set the URL in just these two slides where I'm refreshing an Apex item that contains the URL and then redirecting to that. A little bit outside the box, but it works. And talked about opening and closing. Talked about passing values in or bake it into. I only have a few more slides left. Important stuff. Follow convention where use a page, dialog, or drawer for the heavy work. use inline dialogues for fast, reusable, lighter work kind of stuff. An inline dialog pop-up for fast, light messages, reminders. Treat your dialogues as functions independent of the calling page. A dialog or drawer should never manipulate the parent page, but you can pass data back. We do declaratively first. Be aware, I know I have tons of work to do when we upgrade, because my little extra outside that seemed real innocuous is now broken. So be aware of that stuff. Standardize to keep yourself sane and keep your end users sane, and play with all the resources. There's stuff outside of this, and I would love to accept questions from you. Simply email me or DM me on Twitter. I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the 21.2 stuff or the simple modals, dialogues, pop-ups, when to use which. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. Everybody stay safe, please. Karen Cannell, TH Technology. Goodbye for now to APEC Virtual Tour. Enjoy your time. Take care. Bye-bye now.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.